This is the Cubs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Cubs Postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Joe George here with you as the Cubs get the win 3-2 over the Atlanta Braves. They win the series. And honestly, they gained a couple of games on Milwaukee over the last 2 days. Still feels like that's a far ways away, but we got lots to get to on the show. Nico Hoerner, great day at the plate on the base pass. Carson Kelly with the big hit. Justin Turner with a big hit. Really the old guys, both him and Santana having good plays in this one. Jameson Taillon really solid in his return from the injured list. The bullpen was excellent in this one. We saw Craig Counsell implement an interesting strategy in the back end of the game today, which I thought was really interesting for the Cubs. So we'll talk a little bit about the official news that Anthony Rizzo is going to retire as a member of the Cubs. You guys are welcome into the show here in the chat on YouTube as well, off the air as well at Joe George Radio, anywhere, especially for those listening on the audio platforms on Apple and Spotify. But we will start today's show off with our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
So there's quite a few options, honestly, for this game today to pick a player of the game for, because, again, Taillon was solid, your bullpen was good, but I'm going to go Nico Hoerner, the locked-on player of the game today. 3 hits off of Chris Sale, but that eventual insurance run that you needed was basically all Nico. He gets the hit, he advances to second base on an error on the throw to first base. He then steals third because Chris Sale is not keeping an eye on him, and he's easily able to take third base before he's brought in, and that gave the Cubs their third run of the game. So, look, Nico, when you're playing a guy like Chris Sale, we saw what it was like in the beginning of the game. 8 of the first 9 Cubs batters struck out. He was mowing Cubs players down. I mean, Nico's on first base, and he's on second base in the first inning with first and second there, but everything around him is a strikeout. Same thing in the third inning. He's on second base after a single and a steal, and pretty much everything around him is a strikeout. Chris Sale was just making easy work of the Chicago Cubs in the first 3 innings. And it felt like it was going to be a very, very long day at the ballpark. To see him go out there, I mean, Chris Sale, we know, has been one of the best strikeout pitchers in the last, 10 years or so in Major League Baseball. And he was on, full Chris Sale mode in this one, being able to just whatever he wanted to do basically against the Cubs, he was able to get done. So to be able to get the win today, I think is important for that, because the Cubs have struggled against great pitching. They've struggled against lefty pitching. And yeah, they didn't do a ton today. They had opportunities in the first inning. They had opportunities in the third inning, and they could have got more there in the fifth as well. They didn't fully capitalize like you want to see. They didn't have that breakout inning like we saw in yesterday's game, but they had just enough guys on to find a way to get the win. So kudos to Nico Hoerner in this one. Carson Kelly, the big home run in this one as well. And Justin Turner, look, before the game, the lineup comes out. Michael Busch is not in it. Kyle Tucker's on the injured list. And Ballesteros isn't going to play against the lefties. So we see for the second time a lineup with 2 guys in your lineup that are over 39 years old, and Justin Turner and Carlos Santana. And yeah, I kind of chuckled when I saw the lineup card today tweeted out by the Cubs, because I'm just like, I can't believe at this point in the season, as you're trying to keep the Padres as far away as you can so you can host the first 3 games of the playoff series, or if you have hopes and dreams of chasing down the Brewers. I can't believe the Cubs are rolling out a lineup like that. But the 2 old guys, like, they did their job. Justin Turner, the RBI double that you desperately needed, and then there in the 9th inning, I mean, that was a elite play from Santana at first base. He's a Gold Glove winner, and they were talking about there at the end of the broadcast, that infield you're rolling out there at the end of the game with Dansby and Shaw and Santana and Nico, it's such elite level defense, and it normally is anyways with Michael Busch out there, but that was a fantastic play by him. And so for the most part, the Cubs played just really strong, good baseball in this game. The only thing that about this game, it's not just this game. It's just something that I know Matt and Sam have talked about this on their show quite a bit, and we haven't as much on this one. Whatever's going on with PCA and sometimes Tucker, but like tonight with Ian Happ, it's a little strange to me. The communication still does not seem, and it didn't do it major damage for the Cubs. Obviously, the Cubs still got this win, but it's just strange to me how there still seems to be some lack of trust in the outfield. And it's I can't tell who it's from. I can't tell if it's from PCA and the other guys. And you could see on the field he's kind of talking to Ian Happ, and that he peeked at him, and maybe that's why he didn't make the catch. It would have been a difficult catch anyways. But sometimes he seems nervous about where they're at. They seem nervous about where he's at. And I don't know if it's just that elite level speed that PCA has and how much ground he can cover versus an everyday center fielder. But just another one of those moments where it just looks a bit strange for the Cubs in the outfield. So really, besides that and leaving some guys on, like, this was a pretty good game again for the Cubs. Now, coming into this game, one of my biggest questions was going to be Jameson Taillon. Like, what are you going to get from him in this game? He gives you 4 1/3, about, I think it's 70 pitches on the day. He was solid. It reminded me, and this is going to sound weird because Cade Horton's so much younger than him, but he was attacking the strike zone in this one. That to me is the biggest positive from him. I think 20 of his first 30 pitches were strikes, so he was going after the Braves right away and really was able to have a really solid return. Because while I don't really think he factors in a big way to a playoff spot, I mean, I guess if you're in the ALDS, I mean, the NLDS or the NLCS or the World Series, Jameson Taillon could be the guy that gets the ball in game 4 of a series. But thinking just about the wild card, Taillon doesn't factor in. But for the remainder of the season, which should be about 3 more starts through the rotation for these guys, just getting the best starts you can be and building him back up to maybe where you can feel confident with him in the bullpen or in the rotation or in the bullpen, whatever you want to do with Jameson Taillon in the playoffs. I thought today was a really good start for a guy that's missed a lot of time this season and just not had the opportunity to really consistently be out there over the last 2 months. This was a good bounce back or just a good show up performance from him coming off of the injured list. All right, we'll take our break here. We'll get to your questions and comments in the chat. We'll talk about what we saw from the bullpen today, the strategy used by Craig Counsell, and the back end in the 8th and the 9th inning that I thought was very smart. We'll talk a little about Anthony Rizzo as well. That's all coming up next year on the Locked on Cubs postcast. Today's show is brought to you by Nutrafol. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that one actually works. There's so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com. Promo code Locked On MLB. Today's show is also brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. There's not a lot of games left. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, and surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives you the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you pay is the price. The price you see is the price you pay. Download the app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download the Gametime app today.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, so Stanley says here in the chat, Keller is a beast. Yeah, Brad Keller only allowed his 4th hit since the All-Star break. He's been excellent. When the Daniel Palencia last disaster / injury happened, we talked obviously on this show about a change at closer before we knew that Daniel Palencia was going to be hitting the injured list. I thought it was pretty clear at that time that Keller was going to be your closer going forward, and realistically, that's what he is. He is going to have to be the closer for this team the rest of the season into the postseason. However far that goes, Keller is the guy that you want on the mound. But I really liked what Craig Counsell did today because the closer role is something that has become, to me, in a way, a little obsolete. There are certain guys who they have to close. They have to be out there in the 9th inning. Certain setup guys that have to be up there in the 8th inning to feel their best, to perform at the level that you expected them to. But Keller can be used in a variety of different ways. And that's what I really liked what Craig Counsell did today. Where the order was at in the 8th inning was the much harder part of what you had to get through to win this baseball game. That was, I think, a brilliant decision by Craig Counsell. And I think that's the way he should approach it the rest of the season. Now, whether it's Kittredge or Thielbar behind him in the 9th, all that matters is in the 8th or the 9th inning, Brad Keller should face the best 3 batters from the team you're facing. Whether it's the Braves, whether it's the Cardinals, whether it's the Reds, whether it's the Mets, or it's in the playoffs and you're facing the San Diego Padres. If Fernando Tatis Jr. is coming up to the plate in the 8th inning, that's the inning that Brad Keller needs to be on the mound. So I really like that decision-making process from Craig Counsell. He gets a lot of grief, so you got to give him credit, I think, when it's due, and this is one of those where I think, again, it's very due to give him the credit for it. The other parts of this game, Thielbar continues to be excellent. Rogers came in, gives up a sac fly to give the Braves a run when he came in to spell Jameson Taillon, but he was good after that. He ended up pitching a full inning, over an inning and a third, basically. But he gets through a full 3 outs for him today. Let me see Porter Hodge, who he's showing signs of life. I'm hesitant to want to buy back in at any point, but there's a pulse for Porter Hodge all of a sudden in the back end of the bullpen where his stuff looks nasty. He's getting strikeouts. He looks more confident, honestly, on the mound. So because I still got that reaction when they showed him on TV, like he's warming up. I'm just like, I don't love that. But he's starting to look a little bit more like the Porter Hodge we saw last year. If the Cubs could ask for anything to happen in the bullpen, yes, Palencia getting back would be huge, but Porter Hodge returning to a form of what he was last year, to me, would be the ultimate win for the Cubs. Because even, like, think about if you get that guy, and let's say you can't get Palencia back in time for this season because it takes a while for pitchers to get back and rehab and all that stuff. But Keller's been awesome. You have Thielbar, who's been very good. Pomerantz has been good. Porter Hodge, if he can be that guy. And I still like Kittredge and Rogers. Again, they've been a roller coaster as Cubs players so far, but it's just it's giving positive signs, I think, for what we saw from him. Let's see. So some reason we were talking about Caleb Williams in the chat. I have to ignore all of that here. Let's see. Counsell had a good game for a change. Pitch changes were on point. Turner had a big hit. The Bush got a hit as a sub. Yes, I think that wasn't just the bullpen moves. I totally agree there. He was calling the right stuff there for the Cubs. Like I wish Bush would play against lefties. But if it's not a full off day and this is the plan, that's fine as well. That as soon as a righty is back on the mound, Bush has to come in immediately and get back into the game. Even though this is his, I think, second hit since the month started, over 10 days. So Michael Bush hasn't exactly been setting the world on fire, but I did like all of that. Mike says here in the chat, Hodge getting locked in would be huge because his stuff is nasty. It is nasty. And I think we kind of forgot that. Christian says you better mention Nico Hoerner, George. We talked about for the first 5 minutes of the show. He was awesome. I love Nico Hoerner. It's my only Cubs jersey I have right now. I love watching him play. But everything he was doing tonight, and some great plays defensively as well, that weren't, the most challenging in the world, but the double play that he got by himself, just going out there and doing what Nico does. I mean, him and Matt Shaw have been the 2 best players in the lineup today. Matt Shaw off today as well for personal reasons. But Nico was the kind of the straw that stirred the drink, and the reason why the Cubs got the win. Thomas says, honestly, you could talk about Nico all day and that'd be fine. Yeah, he's one of those guys, man. He's just he is a player that the Cubs and the Cubs fans should gravitate towards. I've always had this thing with Cubs second baseman. They've always been my favorite players on the Cubs. Like when I think about what jerseys I've owned throughout my life, it's been like Nico, Javi, Mark Gredzalonic, Starlin Castro. Like there's always like the second baseman, shortstop thing. No Darwin Barney though. But a lot of I've always I'm 5'6", so maybe that's why. But I've always loved the second baseman. Nico's at the top of that list. Last thing here before we wrap up today. We found out today officially that the chat here on YouTube can stop asking the Cubs to sign Anthony Rizzo. I've ignored them. They make me giggle every time I see them. Anthony Rizzo will officially retire as a member of the Cubs this weekend. Obvious it was going to happen. I'm glad it is. It's going to be really cool to see him get honored. You know, it's funny to think like that's going to happen this weekend. And last weekend, they finally had, you know, putting Sammy Sosa and Derek Lee into the Cubs Hall of Fame. It shouldn't take that long for Anthony Rizzo. Like he's another one of my guys that he's one of my favorite Cubs players of all time, obviously catching that final out of the World Series in 2016. So glad he's getting his flowers as his career officially comes to an end. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll talk more about him on Saturday here on the POSTCAST show because it's just great. I do think it would have been – I like their idea on the broadcast of having him come out for like one last at bat. I do wish that was a requirement. Like if you're going to retire as a player on a team, like you have to do like one more thing because he probably could still get hit right now for the Cubs. Like I laugh at the chat when they suggest bringing in Anthony Rizzo throughout the year, but he probably still could come out there and perform at least a teeny tiny bit, probably better than Justin Turner for the Cubs. So that'll wrap it up for us tonight. You can remember, hit that subscribe button here on YouTube as well, anywhere you get your audio podcast, Apple and Spotify. No post-game show on Friday, so we'll be back with you guys on Saturday because the Cubs are off tomorrow as well. So thank you guys for watching. We will talk to you on Saturday afternoon. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good one, and peace.